And here we have the updated Malice Caliber J-Dragon intro, and you can see how much smoother that is. The motion in the background, which I've been discussing through this entire video. The flame is that exact same candle. The motion in the actual... Because I think the way it strips out an area with the flame is the same idea as the crumbling technique from the Spore intro. Then I had the pixel variation of my head at that point, so I used that because I thought it looked better, which I think it does because it's really nice pixel work there. Let's just drop back momentarily again, see if I can think of anything else. So we'll discuss a bit more of the concept piece of this, because Malice gets like awesome... And it's, I don't know, maybe it's in my head, but I think our styles are a little bit more what I've tried to reflect in this intro. The dark summoning of demonic Malice Caliber, with the flames and the red and the purple, the dark purple nature of evil Malice Caliber, the demon lord himself coming forth. And then he's playing games with a fun-loving little fella. Hello, diddly-do. Oh, I'm light and jolly and make stupid jokes. Diddly-do, a diddly-dum-dee. So that was the general idea. Darkness and pain, suffering and anguish versus hello. Which I think worked quite well. But there is a certain sort of irony to it. That is the music from Final Fantasy VIII. Fidos Lusek Vekos Vinosek, something along those lines. Being this epic sort of dark music in the background, which is a track that I favour. It's one of my favourite tracks, because Final Fantasy VIII is one of my favourite Final Fantasy games of all time. And then, lo and behold, this one suddenly turns in... I don't remember where it's from, truth be told. Mr. Caliber would be able to tell you more where that comes from, because I think I got the track from him. I got a feeling it might be something to do with Sonic, but it's one of his favoured tracks. So it's a nice little twisted logic there, isn't it? I've gone dark, demonic track for his side of the music that is my favourite track, and happy, fun times, da-da-da-da, track for my side of the intro, which is actually one of his favourite tracks. So there you go. That's an unusual little tidbit of information for you. And you can see I've still got, even in pixel form, I've still got the little star logo. This is definitely one of my favourite intros of all time. It's entirely ripped off of the TV series QI. What can I say? I have a history of ripping off really high quality English comedy intros because I love them so much. And we're going to, my love of the opening sequence, I think I discussed, didn't I? Been a long fucking video, so fuck knows what I discussed earlier on. I told you my memory's bad. But yeah, it's pretty much an exact copy, just with gaming footage of the QI intro, because I did rather sort of painstakingly go through, and this was a technique that I had to make up. You can see again, this magnifying glass is the same technique as the guns. Magnifying glass, black bit in the middle, magnifying glass the other side. But this, the way it's zoomed in here, I think I had to put like a mask there, and sort of like I don't think it was just a zoom. I don't think it was like just a magnification effect. So I think it had to be like a spherized type thing that looks... Because the way it does the effect, it sort of looks like it blows up the effect. But it was quite a challenge getting that effect to work. You can see that the motion's a little bit janky, but I did have the original QI intro in the background faded down, I think, so that I could match my magnifying glass to the exact motion of their magnifying glass to make it even more accurate. And then again, it's an exact replica of the QI intro. If you've never watched QI, I highly recommend it. It's a very entertaining program. The intriguing thing here, let's see, because I fucked up partway through doing this. I mean, it took a long time to get this QJ, because obviously the original was... This was a question and answer session, if you were unaware, where I asked people, you can ask me any question you like. And that's where this whole idea came from, because I thought, well, it's question J, question J, question J, Q, question... Quite interesting, QI, QJ, yes! So you can see there, I've got the Q, and it is technically a J. And so that just was born from there. But an interesting one is, if you do look carefully through the videos, you will note that the first ones, I think it was probably Sleeves of War had some questions, and I know Oni had some questions, because Oni, unfortunately, you had to wait about 2 to 3 years for the finish of your question, because it was around about the question session where the dark times came, and I gave up on everything, and so the channel died its second death. But what ended up happening with this was I pieced together all this footage into After Effects again in order to build this intro, but then I got to Oni's one, and I think I had to delete some footage off of my computer, and I wasn't careful enough. I was being quite careful, but I wasn't careful enough not to delete the key footage I required for the intro, because this is another slightly interesting thing to do with this QI intro. I made it in After Effects, and then what I wanted to do was have when... Okay, we need to skip a little bit to the end. So you see here where it fades to black, the idea and what they do in the original QI TV program, if we can just get to what I need to, that'll do, I suppose. What happens is the background fades away to reveal the studio they're recording the episode in, but the QI logo is still present. And that was a challenge for me to replicate, because I'd never really done that sort of thing before. Because I needed the intro on top of the recorded footage. And then I needed the intro to have partial invisibility so that the footage would shine through. And so I kept everything, rather than rendering it as a separate video and then just using that video as I usually do, I had to keep it as an After Effects sort of thing to be able to keep it all linked together, which meant when I deleted footage, I suddenly went, oh shit, I need more footage. So that's why I think between a couple of the questions, so I think it's probably Sleeves of War has this version of the intro, and then I think Oni ended up with Paladin's footage suddenly out of nowhere, because I deleted a key piece of footage that I needed and wasn't able to get it back, so I just replaced it. It's a shit story, isn't it? Yeah, a little bit. Here we go, another more sort of After Effects experimentation for the 5-year anniversary, using a lot more Saber plugin. It was quite fascinating to see what, and it's tell you what, another interesting thing here: ripples, automatic ripples in After Effects. And I saw this, and when I thought of the James Bond comments, I thought, oh, well, that would make that a lot easier. A lot easier indeed. And you can see, again, using that sort of... I think this one, I kept it all the same colour. But that coin, again, is using that sort of... It's a 2D image, -5, -10, possibly even more layers there. I think I may have done like 5 layers, so it might have been -1, 2, 3, 4, 5. You can see it a bit clearer there, just to make it look a bit more... I think the reason why it's wood is 5 years was a wood anniversary. I've got a feeling I looked that up. I might be wrong, but I think that's the reason why it was a wood coin. And I will just point out, just in case anybody was thinking, oh, yeah, you fucked that up, didn't you? This is a known, for those of you who don't know, this is a known spelling mistranslation error of a game whose name escapes me for now, but nonetheless, congratulations, and proved the justice is a video game. I just added the 5 years and the cheerio and the extra bits and pieces that were me-based, I suppose. But yeah, the spelling is referencing, not just shoddily done. I know in the past I have done things shoddily, but nonetheless, I do try every now and again. And this was a very rushed intro. Hopefully most people will know I came back fucking strong when I came back, because I put in a lot of hours making a very, very silly but quite satisfying Halloween animation. And then I thought, oh, I'll do a Halloween special as well, might as well. And so I sort of was against the time limit of, oh shit, I need something. So I just ended up piecing together stuff from the animation into the Halloween special, because I think the idea was the animations were supposed to lead into the Halloween special all on Halloween. Unfortunately, I was shit at making timings. And then this one, again, this was basically my time spent throughout the entirety of November and December, and I still couldn't get it done in time for actual Christmas Day. But nonetheless, this is one of, I mean, I'll hold my hands up. End of the day, it's just a sprite manipulation and a little bit of extra sprite work on the bosses, but I was quite pleased with the way it came out. I made up my own sort of arena based on using the real sprites from Castlevania. It's one of the DS Castlevanias. I can't remember exactly which the subtitle is. Might be Aria of Sorrow with a few other things in the mix as well, because I think those candlesticks come from a different game. The little orb things of the lights, they were my work. You can see they're not pixel art. I did them in Flash with just circles because it was easier. You can also see sort of some of the motion is a little bit janky. Like this slide, it's just a little bit too long. It's not quite as smooth as the game would actually do it, because I was doing it in Flash, trying to just sort of... I'm very pleased with that pudding. It's a very silly little thing, but I was really pleased with that pudding. It was very satisfying to build, because I built that from scratch. That was all my pixel work. A lot of this, obviously, the Julius Belmont, what did I call him? I can't remember now. I think he did have a specific name, but all of that is just sort of pixel manipulation, recolouring the Julius Belmont sprite. And then here's the real meat of the intro. Takes a while to get there, I know, but this was an entirely custom boss for Mr. CS SquarePants. You can see the CS on the train itself. That's an interesting story as well, because obviously I'm having to mirror the train. Or I say that, I didn't have to mirror the train, I chose to. But you can see I'm mirroring the train as it passes back and forth. I had to put in a special mirrored version of the CS so that the CS was always the correct way round. So every time I flipped the train, I had to then add this new piece and then flip it back again. So that was mildly intriguing. I was quite pleased with that smoke. It's quite nice. And then the obvious me reference had to come in there somewhere. Mr. CS obviously asked for Rocket League on that occasion. Some pixel presents, but yeah, I think that was the Creepy Skeleton Express, something along those lines. I nicknamed it because of the CS reference, and it was based. I had a slight advantage because I know Mr. CS SquarePants in real life, so I know he does enjoy a good train, which allowed me to sort of tackle that outside of just the CS SquarePants nickname. Obviously, I did include SquarePants in the boss because that made me laugh. And then this one, I think, is the one I was mentioning it earlier on when first thought, then you try and get a better thought, and then you go back to the first thought because it's the only thought you had. This, ladies and gentlemen, is Onibushou's custom intro, and it's the Oni Bush Duo. Because they're Onis, which are demons in Japan, and they fight with bushes, and there's two of them. The Oni Bush Duo. That's the Oni Bush Duo. So bad. But as I was referring to earlier, it's one of those things where I came up with that idea and dismissed it because I thought that is absolute fucking horse shit beyond comparison. And then I couldn't think of anything better, so I just went, yeah, alright. The Oni Bush Duo it is. But I was quite pleased. I was quite pleased with the way the club came out and just the overall thing. Because I tell you what, I wasn't actually going to pause it, but I am going to after all, because there's a few key things to note here. So, being that I only had the username primarily to go on, obviously the Oni Bush Duo was the key fundamentals, but the bombs were loosely based on both the bombs and, wait for it, no, hang on. We will need that's it. Wait. Both the bombs and the strings, or the ropes, were based on my knowledge that Oni likes the game Spelunky. So that rope is pretty much directly copied. I think I had to increase the size, maybe. So the exact pixel placement, I think, was mine. But the fundamental sort of colours, back and forth colour, is based on the Spelunky rope. So that's a little bit of trivia for you. The other thing, I think, is these fucking Onis. This is one of those ones. I tell you, one other thing was, unfortunately, I missed the comment from Oni, which meant I thought I was just working with two people's Christmas specials. And then suddenly, right towards the last minute, oh shit, there's another comment there. Why didn't YouTube tell me about this? I don't know. I genuinely do not know why it didn't tell me about it. But nonetheless, it didn't tell me about it, and I just suddenly randomly found it later. Far later than was absolutely desirable. So a lot of this intro was very much rushed. And yet it was also the one boss I decided to go really fucking complicated on, because I had to do that arm, and then I had to do that rear arm. I think, in fairness, that rear arm is the same as the front arm. So I try not to emphasise the amount of work you put into copying it. You fucking idiot. Yes, I know, I panicked. But it's all sort of separate pieces. The leg is a separate piece from the sort of waist and torso. This shell here is based on an actual piece that I ripped from Castlevania. And I think the waistband is almost based on something as well. Possibly the leg shaping as well. Or was that? That actually might have been me. I don't know. I don't know what was me and what was copied nowadays. Oh well. But this shell definitely, that shell feature is definitely off of an armour, a living armour from Castlevania. One of the DS Castlevanias. All the music is Castlevania DS as well. I tell you what, I think because, it is between these ones as well. So, fascinating little tidbit of information for you. And I might still do a breakdown of this intro separately. I don't know. I did write some notes on it, but never got round to it. Interesting little fact yet, yes. My health bar always ends up landing on 56. I think it always starts on 156. Yeah, it always starts on 156 because it's got a 56 in it. Always ends on 56 because, again, it's got a 56 in it. Now, interesting little bit to note is where I was being really clever, then I fucked it up, and then I got clever again. So, this snow effect is After Effects. And because I couldn't get the snow in Flash without Flash kicking up a hissy fit and crashing on me, I decided, fuck it, I'll just use a snow effect in After Effects and layer it over the top. So, fundamentally, that snow travels on top of pretty much everything. Now, you may note though, if you look very carefully, the snow does not travel over the heads-up display unit there, the health bar. Now, one key thing to note in this version is, you see there, it's just it's like a line there, and it's essentially a box. It's a masked box that prevents the snow coming down over this bar. So you'll see the snowflakes there disappear and then reappear at the bottom. You can see roughly that. Now, that was me trying to be clever by taking the Photoshop file of this health bar, transferring it into After Effects and using that as a mask on the snow to stop the snow passing over this health bar. Now, the problem was I then went into Photoshop and moved the file bits around. And because it's a live link, After Effects went, where's that gone? But I'd fucked it in such a way that After Effects didn't ask me where it had gone. It just went, oh, it's there, right? But it wasn't. It wasn't what the After Effects thought it was. So then what we do is we skip over to Oni's one when I spotted the error, but did not have time to redo everything at that time. But you look here, you can see I did get it correct, because you can see the snow, it does not travel over the red bar, but it does travel between the two bars. See? Sometimes I am not as shit as you think I am. Every now and again. And other things to note, I suppose, I kind of tried to keep the player just doing things I thought a player would do, which is why in the CS SquarePants one, the first instinct the player I felt would have is, oh shit, that thing's appeared. Can I twat it? And then, oh, I wonder, can I jump? Oh no, definitely not. And so I've tried to make it fairly organic as to sort of, okay, I'm designing a boss pattern and then I'm trying to make what a player would do as a reaction to said boss pattern. So there, I thought the player would react by ducking because that's a fairly standardised thing. And again, it's interesting to note that it's reasonably organic, because what I thought here was, okay, jump over the bombs, and what I was hoping for was jump, land and duck. That was the original idea. It was going to be jump, land and duck. But the timing of that bush hit him. And so basically I went, I'll just put the hit animation in instead. So it was a weirdly organic experience putting this boss sequence together, because sometimes it was like, okay, I need you to not get hit, and sometimes it was like, oh, you got hit by accident. Oh, fair enough. And do note, this was another bit I just added as extra. I moved the little hanging man. I had him in a nice little loop. I don't know if that's in the original game or whether that was genuinely something I just made up, but it was quite a nice little extra.